everybody, it's Rolly from Rolly Max Music, back with the latest in our series of videos with helpful hints and tips on how to get the most out of your instrument. Whether you're a guitar player, piano player, bass player, singer, or drummer. And you can see we're doing drums today. And it all comes down to just doing what comes easiest. I'll explain a little bit more about that when we get started. But before we do, I'd like to just put out a huge shout out to the Willow Ridge Community Association. There we go now, in focus. The Willow Ridge Community Association is the sponsor of this series of videos, and we've been working with them for quite a few years as Rolly Max Music is located in the basement of the Willow Ridge Community Hall. So we're coming to you live from our studio today, and in all of the videos actually. So what we aim to do, of course, is just put out a few helpful hints and tips, especially if you're more on the beginning end of things. When you're doing advanced study on your instrument, then it's actually quite essential to find a good instructor that can work with you on particular areas that you would like to excel at. So the drums are one of those instruments that everybody wants to try. I can remember signing up for band class in grade 7, and they always had this registration for what instrument would you like to learn how to play. I put down drums, and so did everybody else. I got trumpet, actually, because everybody wanted to play drums, and we couldn't all play it. But it's one of those instruments that everybody thinks they can play, right? So if the drummer leaves his drum kit over at the guitar player's house, because that's where the band practices, and as soon as everybody goes, what's the guitar player do? Oh, he picks up the drumsticks and just starts drum gear. Now, that wasn't very good. And one of the first things that you figure out is like when you just pick up the drumsticks and start bashing around, it doesn't sound good. So it's like, well, you really have to have technique for drums too. So, those drummer jokes are funny, but skilled drummers are a really hot commodity because, well, hey, they make it look easy, right? So what I'm going to do today is I'm not only going to make it look easy, but I'm going to make it easy to play. So what we're going to start with is, if you watched our very first video in this series, I show you what was called the golden rule of technique. And basically how it goes is take the easiest way out all the time. Okay, so yeah, that's logical, it makes sense. So how that works in real life is if we start with our hands just totally relaxed, flopping off our wrists like that, not moving a muscle, and you can see my fingers are gently bent, my thumbs are totally straight. That is the default position for every instrument, including the drums. So it starts, of course, with how you hold your sticks. Some drum instructors won't even let their students play the entire drum kit until they've mastered a few snare drum rudiments, because it's so important to get the sticks right. So just to give you an example of the wrong way, what most people do if they just pick it up on their own and nobody shows you what to do. Number one mistake people make is they just put a death grip on the drumsticks and then move from the arms and then hit really hard. So I call that the Neanderthal technique, and that never works in real life situations. So try not to play like a caveman. So getting back to making it easier, okay, first of all, it's not easy to hold your arms in the air. It's not easy to try and drive the sticks through the drum heads. It's easier to just let it flow naturally. So how do we go from that relaxed hand position to being able to control the stick? Okay, the easiest thing to do is to lay this drumstick in your hand first, and you can see where the palm has a nice crease in it here, and the stick just goes in there. And the trick is not to grip it like a Neanderthal, not to hold it too tight. You can see that my thumb Okay, it's just kind of in line with the stick there. It's just kind of holding it there. And the fingers are maneuvering the stick. We can hold it really, really loosely just between the thumb and that first bend of the index finger, or we can grip it with all of the fingers like that. But the trick is to hold it lightly so that when you hit the stick on the head of the drum, it bounces. So you notice how I'm not using my arms at all. It's all from the wrist. And I'm holding it so loosely with that natural relaxed hand position that it bounces. And then we're controlling the rate of the bounce by how close the fingers are to the palms. So if the fingers are far apart, we're really holding it loose, we get a very slow bounce. By the way, I'm only hitting the drum once with each stick. So the other notes that you hear afterwards are the bounces. And then if we go a little bit closer to the palm, see how now it's faster, and then we hold it really, really close, but still not squeezing it. Now it's very fast, and then we alternate on that. That's how you do a drum roll. Okay, now getting into how do we put this together in a real beat to make a real song. So you may have noticed that the intro that I was doing here, that's a very common drum beat, and most people call it the Beatles groove or the Ringo beat. So what we're doing here is we're doing different rates at each hand and foot. So what's going on is that we're doing eighth note on the rise cymbal, and then the kick drum, or that's what we like to call it, the bass drum is the technical name for it, but most drummers call it the kick, is on the other end of the spectrum. It's the least busy drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just doing half notes on the 1 and the 3. Now, that's probably not the best beat to use to explain this concept. The best beat to explain how the coordination of the hands and feet work on the drums is that one that a lot of people dread. I don't know why, but it's the disco beat. And you've all heard it. It goes like this. But it's the perfect example of halves and doubles, because everything is usually related in half as often or twice as often as another drum. So if we take the bass drum first, and by the way, that's what defines the disco beat, or as some people call it, 4 on the floor. If you're in 4/4 time, your bass drum is going 1, 2, 3, 4, so those are quarter notes. That's what defines the disco beat. Now, if we were to play twice as many beats or twice as often on a hi-hat, then we get this. 1, 2, 4. And just to contrast it, on the snare drum, we're going to play half as often. So we're going to only play on the 2 and 4. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it all together. 1, and there you have the concept of the hi-hat going twice as fast as the bass drum and the snare drum going half as fast. And you can mess around with this and change it around. Like for instance, what we can do is we can swap out the timings of the kick drum and the hi-hat like this. So we can make the kick do the 8th notes and the hi-hat do the quarter notes. And actually, both these beats are from actual songs. So, of course, the disco one, there's a lot of songs, but my favorite is when Carmine Appice does it in Rod Stewart's Do You Think I'm Sexy? And Carmine uses it in his excellent drum method books. It's beat number 4 in Rock Drums for Kids. So it's simple but effective. And then the other version where we're doing faster kick, slower hi-hat. That's the drum beat from a song by Queen called Don't Stop Me Now. And it's a real driving, happy, go-giver song. So Roger Taylor, the drummer from Queen, that's probably how he came up with the beat. He probably thought, well, yeah, everybody knows the disco beat, so let's just reverse or switch out the kick and the hi-hat parts. So when we take all this consideration, the theory being the halves and the doubles in timing, and the technique, remember, take the easiest way out all the time, then all of a sudden drumming becomes a lot easier than if we take the Neanderthal approach to just squeeze and grab and hit as hard as you can. Now, I'm just going to cover one more quick thing here. I'm going to use a little bit more complicated beat. You probably have heard this drum intro. It goes like this. So it's got an irregular kick drum. And that, of course, is the intro to an Aerosmith song called Walk This Way. Now, we talked about stick control, so how you can, by properly holding the sticks, you can get different speeds and techniques, all with a light touch. Well, same can be done with a kick drum, but I won't get into the really technical basics, but I will say that this one consideration for drummers that almost no other instrument, maybe pipe organ, has this consideration in order to play your best, and that's footwear. When you're doing fast kick drum, things like if I had a double kick here, I'd show you the metal drummers always do that. This is the beat they do, but just with their feet. You have to be able to move around really comfortably, and the funny thing is that different people tend to work the best with different shoe or shoeless configurations. So what I would suggest is if you're working on your bass drum technique, try different types of footwear. If you're a metal drummer, you might like big biker boots or something like that, or you might like running shoes. That might work the best. I know a couple jazz drummers that have particular nice dress shoes that for whatever reason are the right weight and that. They always wear those for drumming. Some drummers like to wear their stocking feet, and a lot of drummers go barefoot because they can just really feel the pedal on their feet, and you get the best results that way. So whatever it is, try it out. But remember, the most important thing, take the easiest way out all the time. So that means no overplaying, okay? That's why drummers get a bad rap, right? But most drummers shouldn't get a bad rap because they play with a lot of good technique. So once again, thank you for watching our series of videos. We'll be covering lots more in the weeks to come. If you'd like to know more, feel free to give us a call on the number here at any time. And until next time, well, happy playing.